Hey there, YouTube. It's your boy B3, back with our newest movie reaction review. As many of you might know, I did announce that I was going to a critic exclusive screening of Halloween Kills on October 12th so that I could review it for you as soon as possible today on October 15th. I hope you really enjoy the review. If you want to know about the critic screening specific stuff, I did do a video on that, which will be in the movie reaction review playlist and the vlog playlist for your convenience. But yeah, so let's talk about Halloween Kills from 2021. It's part of the new sequel trilogy that's like, it's going to be 3 films that are a sequel to the original 78 John Carpenter Halloween. The first one in this trilogy was the 2018 film, which we reviewed and I said I thought was all right. But after watching this one, I feel like maybe I have a worse impression of the 2018 one, but it was just a reaction review. So now we're going to get into Halloween Kills, which picks up basically the second that the last one ends, with Michael Myers trapped in the burning house. And I have to let you know, from this point on, there are going to be spoilers. There just are probably going to be spoilers because I'm just going to talk freely. So buckle up. So, excuse me. He escapes and he like slaughters a whole squad of firefighters. It was pretty kick-ass. In the last film, one of my complaints was that the kills weren't creative. Slashers are kind of known for creative kills, and 2018 didn't really have any. He just stabbed people on different body parts, and that was it. But admittedly, slashers, it's hard for them to walk the line between creative kills and ridiculous kills. Because, like, Pumpkinhead shoving a rifle through a guy's chest. Creative kill. And then Crowley sanding a guy's face off, even though he doesn't have an electrical connection. Ridiculous. Yeah, it raises too many questions and takes you out of it. Makes you feel like it's, I don't know. But this film, I thought the kills were perfect. There were some more standard kills. Had kind of Michael's thing. He likes to pose up bodies sometimes after they're killed. He did that. But he had more creative kills, like he was killing the firefighters with their firefighting equipment. And then there was one where a woman was about to shoot him and he kicked a car door open. It was my favorite kill in the movie. And it hit the hand that the gun was in so that it turned as she pulled the trigger and she shot herself in the head. And I was like, that was a pretty dope kill. So that was good. The special effects were still good. There was only like one effect in the whole thing that I thought looked kind of during one specific kill that has to do with the head. I want to kind of leave some things a mystery for you, you know, even if you don't plan on seeing the film. Maybe you'll want to by the end of this. Oh, doggy's howling. I put her outside so that I could record this because she was being some days she thinks she deserves dinner 30 minutes early, and it's 30 minutes before her dinner time. And I was like, I'm not going to deal with the barking and the jumping on me during the review. So, you know, Michael Myers is running around. Everyone's like, oh, he's coming for Laurie. And then, like, a big reveal is that he's not, and he never was. I know that they have, like a I think genetic connection. I think he's like her brother or something in the original continuity, but since none of that's canon, now Laurie just happened to be stalked because she was near his childhood home in the first film, and that was it. Had nothing to actually do with her. Michael is just kind of fixated on that childhood home and a certain window as well. I still think most of the characters are pretty bland. Not that slasher films are known for grand characters, but you could at least try. And if they did try, then they just failed. They really did, because You know, in the last film, it was supposed to be kind of like, look how badass Laurie is, but also uh, look at her family. And so Laurie spent the entire film in a hospital bed, pretty much. And I think that's going to piss a lot of people off. I think that's going to piss a lot of people off because she's not active doing stuff. But I'm sure she will be in the third one of this series or trilogy. Is it going to be called Halloween Ends? I don't remember off the top of my head. Because I'm not going to say specifically the ending of this film yet, but I will in a bit touch on that and what it means. But yeah, this film had a lot of stuff. Like in lots of slasher films, people will often like not believe the slasher exists or not believe that they're a big threat. But like when the town becomes aware of Michael Myers' freedom and murders, they're like, fuck, let's take this seriously. But they also get overly scared and emotional about it. They kind of enact a mob rule. And you know, a mob in a horror film, it's never a good thing. They always screw up. And they really did. And things happened that they can't undo because of their mob mentality. Things that make them guilty. Things that show the evil inside everyone. And that was kind of one of the big things about the film that maybe could have been addressed a bit better, but yeah. We have a gay couple that are characters. They're mostly there for laughs. And I think they really want you to feel something when they die. And you kind of do. I felt like the audience I was with really did feel for them when they died. Like, a lot of people died in this movie. And I think the gay couple dying was the second biggest reaction. And I was like, that's good. But I did see it in Atlanta, the gayest city on earth. So, woo, pride time. But I didn't feel like they were stereotypes. I got gay energy from them immediately before it was revealed, like I could tell. Movie maybe seemed a little afraid to have a gay kiss or something, or I don't know. But still, I thought it was good representation, at least. And I like how it wasn't about how they were gay. They just sort of happened to be gay. It's hard because sometimes I'm like, what's the point in having gay characters if they aren't being gay? And then sometimes I'm like, you know, it's nice to just see gay characters treated as everyone else. It's a fine line. And sometimes I don't know what to feel about it. I'm pan myself, so if that helps you understand what I'm trying to say. But yeah, continuing onward, we see some pretty good lighting, some pretty good directing. I don't think the dialogue was as clunky this time. I thought the dialogue had improved a good bit. The directing is still pretty good. I still really like the cinematography and everything, the set design, costume design. I still really like all of it. They actually changed Michael's look a bit. They had some of the mask melt from the fire. And you know how at the end of the original Frankenstein, when was that? 30, 31? 30? Yeah. So he like kind of has longer hair, but then in Bride after the fire, his hair is like shorter because it's been burnt. The hair on Michael's mask, it did the same thing. It like became short because it'd been burnt. So it was cool. They gave him like a slightly different look, which is important because then you can sell more collectibles of him. But also it just makes it feel a little different and fresher, you know, which is fine and fun. And then we're moving on. So this film is more about Laurie's granddaughter and mother trying to do stuff. Remember I said I liked that gotcha moment where Laurie's daughter shot Michael in the first one. There's another gotcha moment like that where she leads him into a trap. And then there's this monologue about how the real damage Michael does isn't when he kills people. It's the people that don't die. They become so afraid that they end up doing horrible things. Like Laurie basically abusing her daughter her whole life. And the townspeople forming an angry mob and getting innocents killed. Like a lot of crazy stuff. And then and uh and then at the very end of the film, after it looks like Michael's been defeated, even though, and they really want you to think Michael's been defeated. I mean, like, he gets stabbed in this area in a way that makes you think there's no coming back unless there's something supernatural. So I feel like there has to be something supernatural. Once again, this is a new timeline. We can't hold it to anything in the previous one. Because, wow, he took a lot of damage in this film. But dealed out even more without acting like he was even injured. Pretty wild. Really wild. But yeah, so, and here's the spoiler of all spoilers. At the very, very end, Laurie's daughter is killed by Michael at the window. And that, I'm sure, will serve as motivation for Laurie and her granddaughter to really, really take down Michael in the final film of this continuity. And I think they should. I think in the final film of this continuity, they should defeat Michael Myers once and for all. Kill him, confirmed. Because I think because I want that. I just want that to happen. Because I think most people in the audience will assume that that's impossible. And with the way he fought and took a hit in this film, you would think it's impossible, but I feel like audiences think that's impossible just because of Michael's popularity and the fact that they'll probably always want to bring back the Halloween franchise at some point. It's a huge franchise that's very important to film history. And I don't think they'll ever really stop making them, much like Godzilla films or Batman films. They'll never really stop making Halloween films. But I think at the end of this continuity, Michael Myers should be dealt with once and for all. And this movie had some interesting stuff, a few things I didn't expect. One of the better slashers I've seen. It brought back a couple old characters that were like some kids that were grown up and stuff. And then there was also this really long flash forward that seemed maybe a little too long. I didn't have any problem with some of the more lighthearted comedic bits because they make the actual horrific bits hit harder. I touched on that a bit more in my vlog about the screening and how it affected the audience. And I honestly thought this was a relatively enjoyable film. Would have enjoyed it a lot more if the audience was more respectful. And, okay, so when I say I thought this was a good film, if you're into slashers, you'll probably like it way more than I did, because I'm not into slashers. I like John Carpenter's directorial style, but I'm not into slashers. Aside from the original Halloween and the original Pumpkinhead, there aren't really any slasher films that I really liked. Oh, B3, you really liked Hellraiser and Hellraiser 2. Those aren't slashers. Hellraiser, I feel like, didn't become slashery until Hellraiser 3, which I need to review. I need to review Hellraiser 3. Hellraiser 3 is the one that got a bit slashery, but the first two aren't slashers at all. Not at all. And I want to touch on the themes of the film. The main theme of the films, both 2018 and this one, seem to be about trauma and how people deal with trauma. And I'm not super used to slashers covering stuff like that, or at least not most of them. Slashers are kind of cheap to make, so a lot of the really bad straight-to-DVD or indie ones kind of really bog it down. But this H40 timeline, the theme is definitely trauma. Because Laurie, instead of trying to move on, fixates on Michael and wastes her entire life. It ruins her family. And Michael would never have attacked her again if she hadn't done that, if you think about it. Because if she hadn't obsessed over Michael and based her whole life around Michael, and I'm not saying she wouldn't have lifelong trauma, because of course she would. Who wouldn't? I'm a victim of an assault myself. Trust me, I know. But Laurie never tried to move on. She never tried. And that's why Michael came back. Because if you don't try to move on, your trauma's not going to go away. And your trauma never will. Michael will always be there. They even say that in the end of the film. Even if they physically killed Michael, what he represented would always be there. But it can get better. Trust me, it can. I know it can, because it has for me. So if you go into that and you see this, and that doesn't really hit you until it's revealed in this film that Michael never would have come after Laurie. He just wanted to go home. All Laurie basically had to do was move out of town. Because the doctor brings Michael to her. He's not searching for her. And the doctor only thought they had this kind of weird parasocial obsessive relationship because Laurie did. And Michael doesn't talk, so he couldn't tell him he didn't care about Laurie. Michael he didn't care. Laurie was just there. That's why. Pretty wild. Pretty wild. And then this movie touched even further on that. And this, because this movie did have the line where it was like, when it said Michael will never really go away, but we can try to fight that pain. It's like, trauma never really goes away, but you can make it better. I think the themes in these films are handled really well. And one huge compliment I want to give John Carpenter and the whole creative team, cast and crew behind this film, especially the writers and director, John Carpenter. These films were clearly plotted out together. I have no doubt in my mind that they knew the entirety of events that would take place in the three movies when 2018 came out. When 2018 came out, I know in my mind that Kills and the one after were already planned through plot-wise. Because stuff was set up in 2018 that was followed through in this, and then this movie like points back. They flowed so perfectly together. Because I watched 2018 like the night before. Less than 24 hours before I watched Kills. And they flow together perfectly. They did what Disney and J.J. Abrams should have done with the Star Trek sequel trilogy. Because you see, the Star Trek sequel trilogy, they made The Force Awakens, and then someone else came in, and Abrams was absent, and they decided what to do for the second film, and then Abrams came back in and decided what to do for the third, which is why Rise of Skywalker doesn't make any fucking sense and is a terrible film. Because they made The Force Awakens without a plan of where the trilogy would go. Now, if you make one film and you weren't thinking about a sequel, but it gets popular and a studio wants you to make a sequel, that's one thing. Because you didn't plan on it. But if you go into a trilogy knowing for a fact that it's going to be a trilogy, you need to have the entire thing planned out. Like my book I've been working on, All Dinosaurs Go to Hell. Consider this an announcement. Consider this a reveal. It was planned as a trilogy, and I know exactly how the third book ends. I know exactly how the third book ends, and the first one isn't even out yet. And they're very clearly doing that with these Halloween films. And to be honest, I am excited for the next one because I do expect it to be better than Kills. I think it'll be really interesting. Laurie's daughter's death will be a driving force for her and her granddaughter. Uh, Excuse me for not knowing anyone's names other than Laurie Strode and Michael Myers. Michael Myers is kind of a big cultural icon. He's in the zeitgeist, you know. Everybody knows Michael Myers' name. And then Laurie Strode, I only kind of recently learned it. And I only really remember her name, well, one, because they say it 40,000 times in the 2018 film, but also just because I really like Jamie Lee Curtis. Like, I really like Jamie Lee Curtis. Even if I was disgusted by slashers, I'd probably still at least check out the Halloween films for Jamie Lee Curtis, because I do really enjoy all of her performances. The one in 2018 was whatever, and she didn't have much to do in this one, but I could feel real emotion from her. It was good. I felt like there were some pandery things in it, not as many as the 2018 one. Not even close to as many. Just one or two things, like kind of the introductions of some of the previous actors, and it almost felt like they didn't need to be there. They were just there because people would be like, "Hey, I remember that character." But they didn't really, anyone could have done what their characters did, I felt like. Some people might disagree with me on that, and I can see that argument, but as someone who doesn't have as much as an emotional investment in Halloween or slashers, and looking at it from that angle, it's like any townsperson could have filled that role. It could have easily just been a friend of someone Michael murdered that we'd never met. And it could have been someone he murdered in either the 78 or 18 or even this film. Like, it didn't have to be characters from the previous films. It didn't have to be characters from the flashback that was too long. So, and then the acting in this film was just okay as well, just pretty standard. So, yeah, I have my complaints, you know, characters not that interesting, etc. But all in all, I found it enjoyable. And if I found it enjoyable, slasher fans will probably really like it. The friend I took to the screening scared the ever-loving shit out of them in like the first 10 minutes. Scared the fucking shit out of them. It was awesome. I'm a sociopath. So that's it. Thank you all very much for your support. Go see Halloween Kills. You know? If you're vaccinated and wearing a mask and etc. and social distancing. I sat in distanced seats because there were these two seats for people that, so they could sit next. There were wheelchair spots and seats between the wheelchair spots so that people who came with people in wheelchairs could sit next to them. And I sat in those so that no one would sit on either side of my friend and I, because it was a packed house, and because since it was a critics review and we didn't want to get COVID. But that's it. Thank you all very much for your support. Remember to rate, comment, and subscribe. Check out all the cool links in the description below, Facebook, Twitter, etc. And I do think I am, in fact, going to see you all next time. Halloween's going to be so spooky. Ooh!